He walked into the bustling restaurant, just another customer in the Friday night crowd, or so everyone thought. Dressed in worn jeans and a faded jacket, he ordered a steak and sat quietly in the corner. No one knew he owned the place. He was here for answers, to see if the whispers about his staff were true. But as his meal arrived, the waitress leaned in, her smile fixed, and slipped a folded note under his plate. One glance at the words inside, and his blood ran cold. What could a single piece of paper reveal that would change everything? Ethan. Marshall had built this restaurant from scratch. Every recipe, every detail, every corner bore his mark. It was his pride, his livelihood, and for years, his escape from the noise of the world. But lately, something had been wrong. Rumors reached him from customers he trusted, complaints about cold service, missing orders, and worse, staff-making, offhanded comments to certain customers. The reports were too consistent to ignore. Instead of storming in as the boss, Ethan decided to blend in. That Friday evening, with the dinner rush in full swing, he walked through the front doors like any other diner. The smell of grilled meat and baked bread hit him instantly, familiar yet strangely distant. He took a seat where he could see the floor clearly, but still remain unnoticed. His waitress, a young woman named Kara, approached with a polite smile. He watched her move between tables, efficient, but with an air of caution. She took his order without recognizing him, jotting down medium rare and walking away quickly. Ethan kept his eyes open, noting the interactions around him. How certain customers were greeted warmly while others received clipped, hurried responses. Something was off. By the time his steak arrived, Ethan had seen enough to confirm that the whispers weren't just gossip. But nothing could have prepared him for what happened next. Kara subtly slid a folded slip of paper under his plate before walking away. Ethan waited until Kara was out of sight before sliding the note from under his plate. His fingers trembled. Slightly, not from fear, but from the uneasy anticipation of what he might find. The handwriting was rushed, the ink smudged in places. Please don't react. There are things happening here you need to know. Meet me in the alley behind the restaurant in 10 minutes. His heart kicked up a beat. Why the secrecy? Why him, a customer she'd never met before? Unless she had recognized him after all. He watched the clock on the wall. Every tick seemed louder than the chatter around him. The steak sat on his plate, untouched. 10 minutes later, Ethan left cash on the table and stepped out into the cool night air. The alley was dimly lit, the hum of the kitchen fans above filling the silence. Kara emerged from the back door, glancing over her shoulder before speaking in a low, urgent voice. "There's something you need to know," she began. "I've seen staff refuse service to certain customers. They claim it's about table availability, but it's not. It's about skin color. I've heard the comments, the jokes when no one's listening." Ethan's jaw tightened. He had built this place to be welcoming to everyone. "Are you certain?" he asked, careful not to reveal himself yet. She nodded. "And it's worse than that. Last week a man came in with his daughter. They were made to wait almost 40 minutes while other tables sat empty. I couldn't say anything. I was told to follow the rules. But I can't keep doing this." Ethan felt a wave of cold anger wash over him. The thought that his own staff, people he had hired and trusted, were carrying out quiet acts of discrimination under his roof was almost unbearable. Before he could respond, Kara added, "I've heard them laugh about it in the break room. They think no one notices. They think it doesn't matter." She took a step back, fear flickering in her eyes. "It matters." Ethan took a slow breath, then reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. Inside was a worn business card, his own, with "Owner" printed beneath his name. He handed it to Kara. Her eyes widened as she realized who she had been speaking to. She covered her mouth, a mix of shock and relief washing over her face. Without a word, Ethan walked past her, back through the kitchen. The staff froze as he stepped into the center of the floor. His voice was calm, but every word carried weight. "I've been here all night," he began, his gaze sweeping the room. "I've heard enough to know that this place is not the restaurant I built, not the place I envisioned." The room went silent. Servers shifted uncomfortably. One man at the bar looked away, his knuckles white around a beer glass. "This is a place for everyone," Ethan continued. "But some of you have decided it's only for people you approve of. That ends tonight." A few protested weakly, but Ethan raised his hand, cutting them off. "If you think discrimination has any place here, you will not work here another day. Clear your lockers. Leave your keys. We will rebuild, with people who understand that respect is not optional." The color drained from a couple of faces. Others looked down at the floor, guilty and silent. Ethan turned to Kara. "Thank you for your courage." By the next week, half the staff had been replaced. Ethan personally oversaw the hiring process, ensuring diversity and respect were non-negotiable. New training sessions were implemented, not as a formality, but as a foundation. Word spread quickly. Customers noticed the change. The atmosphere became warmer, more welcoming. Regulars who had stopped coming returned, telling Ethan they finally felt comfortable again. But for Ethan, it wasn't just about business. The note had shaken him deeply, forcing him to confront an uncomfortable truth. Even good intentions can be undermined when vigilance fades. It wasn't enough to build a space with the right values. He had to guard those values fiercely. He thought often about the customers who had been turned away, the silent hurt they must have carried. He knew he couldn't erase those moments, but he could ensure they would never happen again under his roof. One evening, as the restaurant buzzed with life, Kara approached him quietly. "I'm glad you came in that night," she said. Ethan nodded. "So am I. It's a reminder that change doesn't happen by itself. Someone has to notice. Someone has to speak." The words stayed with him long after she walked away. In a world where injustice often hides in plain sight, sometimes all it takes is one note, one voice, to bring it into the light. And Ethan knew. This wasn't just his story. It was a story happening in countless places, in countless ways. The real question was, how many more would go unnoticed before someone decided enough was enough?